Here we go.
Okay.
Say hi.
Hi, Chris. I'm going to show you how to put together your sourdough dough to make a loaf. So we'll get it started today. It'll rise overnight, and then we'll be back tomorrow to form it into a loaf. So you can see everything we have here. We have a large bread bowl. I have a 1/4 cup of water here. I have 400 mLs of water here, flour, salt, an assortment of spoons, a food scale, something to put the flour in to weigh it, and our sourdough starter. So the first thing we're going to do...
Is 400 mLs an equivalent of something, Mom?
I don't have any idea. It looks like it's about 1 1/3 cups.
Great, thank you.
So you can... This is what your sourdough starter is going to look like inside, so we need to stir that up. I have a long iced teaspoon to do that with. And you just want to stir the liquid. It smells kind of yeasty, a little bit like vinegar, a little bit like beer. It's a good smell. You want it to smell good and healthy. So once we get it stirred up, we're going to just pour, and I just never measure this, I just eyeball it. Pour about that much into our bread bowl. And then while we have it out, we're going to go ahead and feed it. And we feed it with equal parts water and flour. So this is a 1/4 cup of water. This is a 1/4 cup of flour. I'm going to dump that in. We can use this nice long spoon to stir this around.
Would you say then that you probably put about a 1/2 cup of starter in the bowl, or no?
Make a slurry. It's probably a little less than a 1/2 cup. And then we're just going to pour that in to our starter. Give it a stir. And then when we're finished, we'll just put that back in the refrigerator. I just keep a piece of saran wrap kind of loosely over mine. Okay, now we're going to put together our dough. So this is, we're going to do an 80% hydration. So we have our 400 mLs of water, and that means we need 1 ml is 1 gram, so that's the equivalent of 400 grams of water. So we need to put 500 grams of flour into our dough. So this is an old scale, it doesn't have a tear, so I just need to look.
Do you want the digital one?
It's about 100 and, looks like it's reading right at 150.
You can tear it with the knob on the side.
Oh, can you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not going to do that.
Well, it's too late now, but
It is
just
too late now.
FYI.
This is easier for me.
Okay.
So we're going to put this in until the flour, we're going to put the flour in the bowl until it reads 650. Someday it probably would be useful to measure out the flour weight-wise and then dump it into a series of cups and see how much it is in cups, so I don't have to weigh it, but it's just not going to happen today. So we need a little bit more. Okay, this is our 500 grams of flour. We're just going to pour that in. Stir it around. Until everything's incorporated. Before it's too mixed up, I'm going to add my salt. And I usually use about a tablespoon of salt for this much flour. And this will make one nice sized loaf. So as you can see, as opposed to a commercial yeast dough, this is this dough still looks pretty rough. Shaggy. It is kind of shaggy, but you want to mix it around until there's no real dry flour left. And then we're just going to leave it here, cover it with a towel. If you've got a warm place, that's always best. We're just going to cover it up, set it aside, and we'll come back to this tomorrow. And tomorrow will be our bake day. This goes back in the refrigerator. And it'll be fine in here until our next bake.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is our bread dough. It's been sitting overnight. And I'm gonna scrape it out onto a very well floured board. And we're not gonna knead it. We're just gonna turn it. We're gonna kind of form it like this. And kind of pull the sides down as we turn it. It's pretty sticky, so you want to keep flouring your hands. And as we turn it, it does start to develop more of a skin on top. And some of those little dry, rough places will get mixed into the softer parts of the dough. So this looks pretty good. This is starting to look like a nice loaf. We're going to move this over to a baking sheet, cover it up, and let it rise for a little bit more. And then we're going to bake it for about 50 minutes at 450. So we'll take a look at this in about a half an hour. Okay. So our bread's been sitting here for about an hour, and we can see that it's puffed up pretty good. I'm gonna just tuck the edges under to make it a little rounder loaf, like that. And then I'm gonna use these scissors to let some of those bubbles, let the air out, and we're going to put it in our hot oven. This is a 450 oven. And I'm going to let it bake in there for about ready. Here it is.
Oh, you've made a rustic boule.
A rustic boule. So we're going to cool it off. Let's just see what it looks like inside.
You're not going to let it cool? As one would with a nice roast?
I want to eat it now. It's boiling hot.
Good luck with that.
I'll do this. Here we go. There's our sourdough.
Look at that crumb.
Look at that crumb.
That's really nice, actually.
Thank you. Butter on here.
Hi, Chris.
It's so good.
The satisfaction of not really very much work.
It's delicious.